Hello again. Good evening, good night, wherever you are in your neck of the woods. This is Tanisha. Thank you for joining us today on Confessions, where faith meets failure, purpose meets pain, and we talk about the real story behind building a legacy and surviving. If you are returning to a next episode, thank you so much. If you've been following our story, you know that we are sharing with you real confessions of a CEO journey as we have lived it. With no further ado, let's get into today's episode. If you were ever in the position where you had to keep going when everything seemed to be falling apart, this episode is for you. With no further ado, let's get right into it. Before we settle down today, I am going to ask you to subscribe to the channel, share this video, so that other entrepreneurs and CEOs can make full use of the confessions and the lessons that we share. This is going to be such a good one, so hang in for the full run. Let's get into it. Moving on into our story, so you know how we started. I jumped right out of my bedroom into a cubicle where I started my first business. Y'all know how that went up in flames, and Tanisha had to take a break and start over, baby. We talked about the burnout that we experienced from that, and we talked about all of the lessons, and I hope that you are learning, that you are healing, and that you are also aligning to your purpose. Taking a step back was not a setback for us. It propelled us into our comeback. And today, this confession episode is about the comeback that we make. And from the lessons that we learned, we got quite a few things right this time around. But despite all our efforts, it all went up in flames again. I'm sure you're all excited to hear what happened, what did not work, and what worked. And so we won't hold off anymore. We will just give you the raw, unfiltered story as we have lived through it. So this time around, we decided that we would get a few things right. We got the business loan. We had 3 members of staff. I had my husband working with me, his brother, myself, my sister at one point. So we covered all of our bases. We had people who were accountable, and most importantly, we had family who could help us on the journey to success. The most important step that we made is that we hired a certified chef. He came highly recommended. We looked at all his references, we checked them, and everything, baby, was on point. So everything was off to a great start. We were going in the right direction. And then we got an opportunity. We got wind of an opportunity that there was a tenant who had rented a physical shop space. She was having difficulty holding up because of all the overhead expenses. And luckily for us, she was looking for somebody to share the unit with her. Baby, we saw this as a wonderful opportunity to go and spread our wings again. So we got the business loan, we went over to her, everything seemed to be in check. We decided that we would share the expenses for the building 50-50 down the middle, 50-50 down the middle, right? And that we would share the utilities also 50-50 down the middle. It was a good deal, and it was a good comeback. And we had all our ducks in a row, and everything seemed to be going in the right direction. But little did we know that everything wasn't well. But as God would have it, we figured that out just in time. So yes, we opened the business. Everything was going great. The lunches were popping off. Oh my God, the community showed up and showed out. We were at a very prominent spot. And what we were serving up in the daytime was delicious, affordable, We provided jobs for family and for the chef that we hired. We were giving back to the community and we were doing good. Most of all, we were turning over a significant profit until it dawned on us that our investment into the unit was quite high. So we started to do some inquiry round and about the plaza, and we formed relationships, and we were able to talk to other tenants on the building to see what they were paying. And so after speaking to one or two tenants, we realized that maybe, just maybe, the agreement that we had was more than tampered with. And so we set out on a mission to find out the truth. We're no longer running around with like chickens without heads. We had a plan. We had a purpose, and oh my God, everything was going well. So we also noticed that a lot of what we earned was pretty much going back into the landlord's or the tenant's pocket. And we noticed that the effort that was being put out equally to manage our expenses, the overhead, and the rent, seemingly it wasn't affecting that tenant at all. There were days when she wasn't in the shop, her own side of the shop was closed. So what we did after we came into the agreement, we set up partitions, and so we turned that whole shop, the unit as a whole, into two. So I was operating a restaurant that I fondly call TJ's Diner after my first son, and we were operating from that space. Now, noticing that it was taking much effort from us to maintain our overheads, even though the money was good. We had customers, we sold out every day, we were meeting our expenses, but it was still becoming a bit much. We had our bank loan to pay, we had a staff to pay, we had our overheads to pay, but for some reason, the urgency and the effort that we were putting in to make sure that we could meet our needs was not the same coming from the other side of the fence. So we decided, after speaking to many more tenants, to confront our tenant that we had come into agreement with. Baby, it went left. We discovered that she was hiding something. She flat out refused to show us the original lease that she signed from the landlord. We decided to take matters into our own hands. Since we could not come to an agreement, we approached the landlord, and boom! That's when we found out from the landlord that we were being cheated a second time around. Not only were we not paying 50-50 down the middle, we found out, and by this time we had tangible proof from the landlord, the owner of the building, that we were actually paying 80%, not 50, not 60, not 70, but 80% of the rental for that unit. Not only were we paying 80% of the rental for that unit, we were paying the entire amount of the utilities that we shared together, which was the electric bill, the water bill, and the expenses for cleaning the unit. We were paying every single penny out of our pockets for those things. And there you have it, guys. Second time in a row. We did everything possible that we needed to have done to make this work. And yes, this business was successful. The food industry was very lucrative. We were at a beautiful location and we were doing well. Everything was going well. After finding out what we did and knowing that in the long road ahead, we still had to uphold all those expenses. We still had to pay our business loan and pay our staff. We decided that we wanted things to be fair, and so we asked the landlord, the tenant, I should say, we confronted her about the things that we had figured out, and she decided that since nothing was in writing, she was not going to make any amendments at all, and that we would have to continue to pay the amount after she had ripped us off already for several months. So my husband and I discussed it, and we decided not to operate a second business out of fear. We decided if this is not going to be done the right way, then we didn't want to do it at all. Because we believe that with the efforts that we were putting in, that there should be a reward, and it should not be with evil. And so we denied the landlord's request, and baby, that's when things began to go downhill. One morning we showed up to the restaurant to operate business as usual, and you wouldn't believe it. The doors were locked. We had no access. The locks were changed. We were locked out of our restaurants with everything that we had worked for and invested, locked in behind closed doors. Guys, this is where it ends for today. Be sure to come back on Friday for the second episode in this series. And thanks for joining Confessions. Thanks for watching as always. As always, walk good.